Hello, my name is Alex Sugarman, and the topic that we're going to be covering today is children and the internet. The topics that are going to be looked at is the negative effects the internet have on children, how parents can protect their children, how the government is protecting children, the positive effects the internet has on the children, and then finally my overall thoughts on if children should be allowed to use the internet or not, based on what we talk about. Now, the six negative effects that the children can face on the internet is the first one is cyberbullying. They can face this through social media, video games, and this affects a child's mental health and physical health. And the Cyber Research Center hosted a survey and found that cyberbullying mostly happened between the ages of 12 and 15-year-old kids, and that 23% of those were girls, 21% were boys, and 35.4 were transgender teens. Who and next one negative effect is the addiction of social media. Now, everyone has a tablet and phone, so they have access to these apps and websites they can use for social media. And the negatives of this is that it drives them from going outside and doing physical activity, while also can have some body issues like punching from leaning over looking at the tablet, and may gain weight gain due to them not doing physical activities. The next one we're looking at is the looking for approval on social media. And this is because children will see the influencers live in their extravagant homes, or they'll see them crop and alter the photos, and they want to look like them to be recognized by them. If they don't get that recognition right away, even by classmates on social media, they may have mental health or decrease in mental health like depression, and they may develop eating disorders to become that skinny to look like these altered photos. Next negative effect, sleep issues, is because they develop a sleep issue because they're not doing enough physical activity to tire them out. So when they lay down at night, they don't sleep right away, and it affects them getting the full 8.5 hours of sleep. The next negative effect is seeing the expert material online. And this is either through pornography or violent material they can see on websites. And the next one is predators. For the predators, to know how to combat them, you must know how to spot one and the steps they take to find the right children. First, they try to find the right victim, and they look at the child's family conditions, see if they're vulnerable, if they're living with a single parent, is there a custodial case, do the parents have drug or mental problems, do the child have drug or mental problems, and they see if the child has any psychological vulnerabilities like low self-esteem. Next, they'll gather information on the child and the parents, see the daily routine and their interests in sports or what they like to do. Next, they'll make contact with the child to seem like a caring adult or another kid in class. Then they'll go to the trust phase where they'll continue talking to the child. They'll talk about common interests, but the predator will ask them questions, see if they're lying, like the daily routine, since they already know this information. And this is when the predator could end it if he believes the child is telling him the whole truth, and it's too much of a risk. Next, if they continue, they'll go to make the relationship more meaningful by buying them gifts, showing them compliments, boosting that self-esteem if they have a self-esteem issue. After that, they go to the abuse phase. And this is when they'll ask for photos of the child, and once the child just sends one photo, they'll use that photo to blackmail the child for more, and it's just a vicious cycle. Now, what can parents do in the real world to protect their child from these negatives? They first can talk to the child about the online activity, see if they met any new friends, ask who they're talking to, make sure they're talking to the appropriate age group and the appropriate topics. Next, you can teach your kids the rules of the internet. Do not share personal information, and do not tell people when you're home alone or there's nothing on your computer monitoring you. Finally, the parent can just look. They can look to see if the kid's developing any mental health issues like depression, eating disorders, due to social media. Parents just have to look. Now, for online, parents can download softwares that monitor what the children are doing online. The first software we're looking at is Burk. Now, the main safety features Burk has is you can monitor the messages of your children. You can view the content the children is viewing, make sure they're on appropriate websites. And if you don't think they're on appropriate websites or applications, you can block them. Like if you want to block YouTube, you can. Next, for the main feature and the feature specific to Burk is you track the child and have the child check in. This is done by sending a notification to the child's phone. And when they click on it to check in, it sends the location to the parents to make sure they're at the right place they're supposed to be, like the friend's house or the library. The second app we're looking at is Aurora. Now, the main safety features are the same as Burr, besides the check-in, but the main one Aurora has that's specific to this one is video game monitoring. What they do is this one is parents can monitor the video game chat logs, activities, what games they're playing to make sure they're not playing rated M games or not getting bullied by other people playing games and being called either racial slurs, transphobic slurs, anything they shouldn't be called. Now, if you have these applications, how will they help you protect your child? Firstly, they'll see who they're talking to. You can see who they're talking to. Make sure they're age appropriate, make sure they're not bullying them. And that goes in the second one. Make sure they're not getting, you can see this if they're getting bullied on video games, if you're using Aurora, or on social media if you're using one of the other applications. That's a big thing because social media, a lot of bullying does happen out in there. The third thing is you're making sure your child's not spending too much time on these applications. Making sure they're going outside and playing. And even if they are on the computer, make sure they're not spending too much time on sites they don't need to be on. Make sure they're spending time on educational sites if they're supposed to be in school. Now, a little warning to the parents, these apps are very intrusive and kids may act different when they know this. And when they do that, it may cause divide between the parents and the child's relationship. And predators look for that to target as a victim. So we don't want your child targeted to be a victim because you're trying to be overprotective. So use less softwares. Use these softwares less restrictive when the child gets older to make sure that your relationship is still good with the child. Now, I did not formally do an interview, but I talked to a friend, Sebastian Shaver, who works in cybersecurity, and we came up with an idea for these less restrictive ways, which is it uses quarantine program. Quarantine programming is it'll take malicious content, set it aside for you to view in a safe place. What we're going to do with this was parent can program it to look for specific words or phrases that the kid should be talking about. And when it detects it, it'll take activity from the last 12 hours, send it to the parent. And the parent can either do nothing after viewing it, saying kids are just kids. They can talk to the kid about it and go to the police, or they can send information to a trained psychiatrist to get more insight on what's going on if the parent doesn't fully know what's going on. Now, as for the government, they are creating laws and task forces to help protect children. For the laws, we have the Common Community Decency Act. We talked about this in class, is to stop children from accessing explicit material. Though this act is found to violate the First Amendment due to providers not knowing who is a minor and who is not. Second law is Child Online Protection Act of 1998. Now, this was to stop minors from accessing obscene material from commercial websites. And the reason that this violated the First Amendment, right, was it was limiting adults to be able to send and receive information on the computers. Now, the third law, which is new, is a law in New York State, the Electronic Security and Targeting Online Predators of 2008. Now, the goal of this law was to make registered sex offenders register their online personas, and this violated the First Amendment rights, which was discussed in Jones versus Stanford. The ruling came out after that only offenders who committed online acts had to register personas, not every sex offender. Now, for task force, the governments are doing is that they have the one called the Internet Crimes Against Children, and that's spreads through 5,000 law enforcement agencies and has 61 task force under that name. Now, they help in active investigations, and they help agencies by training them and training citizens around that area to what to look for so it doesn't happen again or doesn't happen at all. They'll also go to these smaller agencies and help with forensics examination in case if the equipment isn't up to date, and they also help the local lawyers prosecute these guys in case if they are not trained correctly. Now, in 25 years, 84,000 predators have been arrested, and 675,000 people have been trained. And in these 25 years, 844,000 complaints have been viewed. Now we're on to the positive effects of the internet. One positive is children can connect with family and people across the world. They can either connect with relatives or children in other countries to help learn about their own traditions and culture, or about other children's conditions and cultures, instead of just watching a video at home or not talking to the family at all. Now, learning about these cultures will help their education improve and improve the social skills as well, because they're talking to these kids, and they also will be learning about different languages, which may also improve the languages. Now, using the internet has also had multiple educational purposes. First, we had COVID, so the internet helped kids stay in school through Zoom and Google Classroom during this time. They also have access to multiple websites like YouTube, PBS, where they can watch Bill Nye or Brain Pop or documentaries on subjects. And children can also use games to help them learn. Also, children can veer off and learn on their own. They don't just have to learn what school's teaching them. If they find a subject that they find interesting, they can go to these educational websites and learn more, which more learning is always good. And also, the internet also helps children with disabilities learn from different applications and hardwares they can use if they have learning disabilities or if they're not able to use a computer regularly. Now, final thoughts is parents do need to monitor their children, but as they get older, they need to use that software less restrictive because the internet is dangerous. But you need to build that trust so you don't have a divide between the parent and the child, causing the child to act out and possibly be targeted by a predator. Secondly, the government needs to try to keep creating laws and help not violate the First Amendment rights. And this goes into the third point is that people need to give up a little bit of rights to have safety for children. Let's go back to the New York law about the sex offender registry. If we give up just a little bit of the First Amendment, then all the sex offenders can register online. Because who says a sex offender that committed the crime in the real world can't just go online now and do it online? We're not monitoring them because the First Amendment said they don't have to give their online personas. So we need to find a middle ground between safety and rights, where safety is at the forefront. Now, finally, I think the internet is a very dangerous place. This whole purpose of this is to show how dangerous it can be. But with the right tools, the protection from the government, children need to be able to use the internet. They need to learn about different cultures. They need to use it for the applications and the learning techniques it offers. And it just helps them overall in a better place. Now, I'm not saying they should just be unmonitored. Parents need to monitor them as well. But overall, the internet is a very dangerous place. But with the help from parents and governments, children need to learn how to use it, and they need to use it to help them learn and become and to boost their education. Here are my sources. Thank you all for listening to this presentation. Hope you guys have a good day.